Luis Enrique looking to recreate beautiful memory when PSG faces Liverpool. Liverpool faces the reigning European champions next month, a little over a year after PSG eliminated it from the Champions League in the round of 16, en route to winning the trophy. Luis Enrique claimed Paris Saint-Germain is not the favourite to win its Champions League quarter-final tie with Liverpool, and added the reunion with the Reds will conjure beautiful memories. The English and French champions are set to lock horns over two legs next month, just over a year after their last 16 Champions League encounter, which PSG won on penalties at Anfield. That meeting pitted the would-be Premier League and Champions League winners and Europe's two most informed sides at the time. Indeed, Enrique predicted before the second leg that the winner of the tie would reach the final, a claim that proved prescient as PSG won the trophy for the first time. Speaking ahead of another clash with the Reds, Enrique said he is anticipating a huge challenge despite Liverpool's domestic issues this season. When Liverpool were the best team in Europe at the time, they were playing incredible football. I remember Arne Slot speaking very well about PSG at a time when nobody else was. The former Barcelona coach said before Saturday's win over Nice, it was very positive for us, a beautiful memory of a classic tie. We're looking forward to this quarter-final, first in Paris, then in Liverpool. I'm fortunate to have an incredible team and intelligent players. They know that in this type of game, there are no favourites. It'll be very positive for us to play these two games. Enrique also revealed he has yet to hear whether the clash with Lens, which falls between the two legs against Liverpool, will be moved. PSG's fixture with Nantes was originally due to be sandwiched between the last 16 encounter against Chelsea, but was moved by Ligue 1 to allow the Parisians more time to focus on the Champions League tie. Providing a similar arrangement before the second leg against Liverpool would be ideal, especially given that Lens is currently competing for the title and trails PSG by just a point. Although the reigning champions do have a game in hand, I would like to wait for more news, Enrique said when asked about the prospect. Every team wants to find the best conditions to play the competition, but we can also understand the interests of other teams. PSG returns from the international break with a home league match against Toulouse on April 3rd, 5 days before the first leg of the Champions League tie. The Reds travel to Manchester City on April 4th before flying to Paris. Trent Alexander-Arnold punished by Real Madrid after breaking code of conduct. Alvaro Arbeloa selected Dani Carvajal at right-back for the league clash with rivals Atletico Madrid on Sunday, with Alexander-Arnold reportedly omitted for disciplinary reasons. Trent Alexander-Arnold's difficult week took a turn for the worse on Sunday, with the former Liverpool defender reportedly dropped from the Real Madrid side for disciplinary reasons. Alexander-Arnold's exclusion from the lineup for the Madrid derby against Atletico came as a shock, given he has established himself in the side over recent weeks. The 27-year-old has started all of Real's last 4 Champions League matches and prior to last week's win over Elche had featured in 5 consecutive La Liga games. But it was Dani Carvajal that Alvaro Arbeloa selected at right-back on Sunday, with Alexander-Arnold reportedly dropped after arriving late for a training session. As per Spanish outlet Marca, Alexander-Arnold arrived late to one of the final training sessions of the week, with Arbeloa sending a clear message with a decision focused on discipline and dressing room order. Marca adds that Arbeloa respected the team's code of conduct and made the necessary decision to maintain order within the group. The update comes at the end of a week in which Thomas Tuchel opted to omit the ex-Red from his expanded 35-man England squad. I know it's a tough decision for Trent, as it is for Ollie Watkins and Luke Shaw. These tough decisions come from the job, said the Three Lions coach. It's a sporting decision. We stick with Tino Livramento, Jed Spence and Jarell Quansah, who can all play at right fullback. It's a tough one. It's a big name, a huge talent and a big career, but I know what Trent can give us and have decided to stick with the players we have. Since his Anfield exit last summer, Alexander-Arnold has endured a mixed first season at Real, which has been impacted by 2 injury absences. He has made 25 appearances for Los Blancos and earned praise for his performance in the Champions League double-header against Manchester City. Alexander-Arnold's return to the Real team in recent weeks has eased speculation surrounding a possible summer exit, with reports in Spain previously claiming Arbeloa has been left unconvinced by the Liverpool Academy graduate. He could come up against the Reds again this season, having played against his boyhood club in November's Champions League encounter at Anfield. Should the Reds beat Paris Saint-Germain and Real eliminate Bayern Munich in the quarter-finals, the two European giants would meet again in the final four of the tournament. Agatuda explains viral Arne Slot mix-up before Liverpool draw with Tottenham. The Spurs head coach appeared to say hello to the wrong bald man before last week's Premier League game at Anfield, but Tudor has clarified exactly what happened. Tottenham head coach Agatuda has revealed what actually happened during the viral moment in which he seemingly mistook Arne Slot at Anfield last week. A clip of Tudor greeting Spurs' player liaison officer Alan Dixon before the Premier League game between Liverpool and Tottenham became a comical talking point as the Croat appeared to address the wrong bald man before he then walked over to shake Arne Slot's hand. However, Tudor also began Tottenham's midweek win over Atletico Madrid by wrapping his arms around Dixon on the touchline, with the pair sharing a joke. Speaking before Spurs' defeat to Nottingham Forest on Sunday, he was asked about the incident involving Slot and explained there was no case of mistaken identity. "This time against Atletico, we did it on purpose," said a laughing Tudor. "What happened was my son, who is 20 years old, said, 'In Croatia, everyone is laughing with you because you did this mistake.' I said, 'What mistake?' And I said to him, 'You do know who is the guy?' 'No, I don't know.' So I said, 'It's Alan Dixon. I'm spending with him all days together.' So I came out and he's standing in front of my bench. He was there. I came to him to make a joke. If you understand, I came from this side. Dixon's right. I touched him and go to the other side. When he turned, I was not surprised. I was laughing. I can imagine in Croatia, because maybe they don't know who is Alan Dixon, but in England, I don't recognise the guy who I spent every day 10 hours. So I come out and don't know he is. It was a little bit ridiculous. Now Wednesday we did it on purpose to make a joke because from now on I call him Arne. It's not Alan, it's Arne." Despite Tudor's jovial pre-match demeanour, Tottenham suffered yet another seismic loss on Sunday as it was beaten 3-0 at home by fellow relegation candidates Forest. That defeat leaves Spurs sitting just a point above the relegation zone, with West Ham's 2-0 loss at Aston Villa, meaning it remains in the bottom three heading into the international break. Villa's win also saw it extend its gap over Liverpool. Unai Emery's side now holds a 5-point advantage over the Reds in the race for the Champions League places. Liverpool warned PSG could win 10-0 after Reds beaten by Brighton. Liverpool was beaten by Brighton on Saturday in a disappointing setback for the Reds' top four hopes, and Arne Slot's side will now face off against Paris Saint-Germain in Europe. Former Liverpool defender Stephen Warnock has warned Liverpool could face an embarrassing double-header against Paris Saint-Germain when the sides lock horns next month in the Champions League, where the Reds progressed to the quarter-finals of the competition courtesy of a 4-0 win over Galatasaray on Wednesday in what was comfortably their best performance of the season. However, Arne Slot's side was unable to replicate those levels at Brighton on Saturday as it fell to a lacklustre 2-1 defeat. That result reduces Liverpool's chances of securing a Champions League place next season, with the Reds in real threat of missing out on the top five just a year on from being crowned champions. The attention will shift to the cup games after the international break, with matches against Manchester City and PSG, and Warnock has warned there must be a vast improvement. If they go and play like that in Paris, it could be 10-0, the former left-back said on BBC Radio 5 Live. That's how bad Liverpool were today. Brighton weren't clinical and tried to walk it in, but PSG will be clinical. It's very, very worrying for Liverpool. The Reds face PSG on April 8th and 14th, with the second leg to be staged at Anfield. Meanwhile, Warnock's former captain believes Liverpool's squad is not equipped to deal with the hectic demands of the fixture list. We've seen it quite a few times this season where they put in a lot of effort, perform well on the Champions League stage. All the emotion and energy you need to put into those games to get a result. It's having a big impact on them on the weekend. Steven Gerrard said on TNT Sports, "They haven't got the options on the bench or the squad to really make the changes to bring that energy and the quality into the team to the same level they did in midweek. They had to play a lot of the same players today. There were a few changes that were forced on the manager rather than he wanted to make, and it backfired today. Real Madrid take Trent Alexander-Arnold action after breaking code of conduct. Trent Alexander-Arnold was dropped from the Real Madrid side for the Madrid derby against Atletico after reportedly arriving late to training. Former Liverpool defender Trent Alexander-Arnold's challenging a week continued on Sunday, with the defender reportedly omitted from the Real Madrid squad for disciplinary reasons. The fullback was surprisingly left out of the lineup for the Madrid derby against Atletico on Sunday evening. The 27-year-old has started all of Real's last 4 Champions League fixtures, and before last week's victory over Elche, had appeared in 5 consecutive La Liga matches. However, it was Dani Carvajal who Alvaro Arbeloa selected at right-back on Sunday, with Alexander Arnold reportedly dropped after turning up late for a training session. According to Spanish outlet Marca, Alexander Arnold arrived late to one of the final training sessions of the week, with Arbeloa delivering a clear message with a decision focused on discipline and dressing room order. Marca adds that Arbeloa respected the team's code of conduct and made the necessary decision to maintain order within the group. The news comes following a week in which Thomas Tuchel chose to exclude the defender from his expanded 35-man England squad. I know it's a tough decision for Trent, as it is for Ollie Watkins and Luke Shaw. These tough decisions come from the job, Tuchel said on the decision. It's a sporting decision. We stick with Tino Livramento, Jed Spence and Jarell Quansah, who can all play at right fullback. It's a tough one. It's a big name, a huge talent and a big career. But I know what Trent can give us and have decided to stick with the players we have. Since leaving Anfield last summer, Alexander Arnold has had a varied first season at Real, marred by 2 injury spells. He has featured in 25 matches for Los Blancos and received commendation for his performance in the Champions League double-header against Manchester City. Alexander Arnold's recent return to the Real squad has quietened rumours about a potential summer departure, with Spanish reports previously suggesting that Arbeloa was not entirely impressed by the Liverpool Academy product. The defender could face the Reds again this season, having played against his childhood club in November's Champions League match at Anfield. If the Reds triumph over Paris Saint-Germain and Real oust Bayern Munich in the quarter-finals, the 2 European powerhouses would clash again in the tournament's semi-finals. Alisson update given after Liverpool's injury problems deepen in Brighton defeat. Liverpool were without Alisson Becker and Mohamed Salah as they lost 2-1 to Brighton on Saturday in the Premier League, and Arne Slot gave an update on his goalkeeper post-match. Arne Slot has admitted that Alisson Becker is in a race to be fit for Liverpool's all-important Champions League tie against Paris Saint-Germain after the goalkeeper missed the defeat by Brighton. Georgi Mamadashvili deputised for Alisson on the South Coast and could continue in goal. Alisson has struggled with hamstring injuries this season and missed the first leg of Liverpool's last 16 tie against Galatasaray. He returned for the 4-0 win over the Turkish side on Wednesday at Anfield before sitting out of the trip to Brighton once more. Mamadashvili was powerless to stop Danny Welbeck from scoring twice as the under-par Reds were beaten 2-1 in the Premier League's early kick-off on Saturday, and the Georgian may have to continue after the international break. Alisson will definitely be out during the international break. Let's see afterwards, Slot said in his post-match press conference. Posting on Instagram on Saturday morning, Alisson said, "Unfortunately, I will be out of action for a while. Already working hard to be back stronger. Thank you for the support." Liverpool are next in action against Manchester City in the quarter-finals of the FA Cup on April 4th before the first leg of their Champions League tie against PSG 5 days later. Mamadashvili has played 13 times this season, so is no stranger to filling in for Alisson following his move from Valencia in the summer. Slot was without the injured Mohamed Salah for the Brighton game and then suffered a further blow when Hugo Ekitike was forced off in the opening stages following a clash with James Milner. Thankfully for Liverpool, he had some encouraging news post-match. Hugo could play tomorrow if he had to, Slot said. It was a dead leg. It was a collision that led to him going off. It was not helpful. He added to TNT Sports, "The players, the fans, we all know there's only 8 games to go to qualify for the Champions League. Every game you have to miss is something you're upset about." Him having to go off so early, not being able to help the team with something which is just a bit of bad luck and not something that's going to be keeping him out for 3 months, as far as we know. It was bad enough to not be able to continue, and it's a big blow for him, and in the end was a big blow for us too. Liverpool were poor against Brighton, who were deserved winners. They failed to create much when chasing an equaliser, finishing the game with Federico Chiesa, Cody Gakpo and Rio Ngumoa in attack, with summer signing Alexander Isak still sidelined. Alex will available for PSG, yes, Slot said on Friday. The question is what you mean around being ready. If you want to have the player who played exactly a year ago against us in the Carabao Cup final and was too good for us on that day, then I would tell you I have my doubts about that after 7 or 8 months out. But I expect that I can use him for minutes. Exactly what I get from that, I cannot tell you because he hasn't trained with the team even once. Liverpool news, Mo Salah blamed for Reds' problems and Steven Gerrard admits surprise. Today's Liverpool news sees an Anfield icon rip into Mohamed Salah as Steven Gerrard expressed his shock. Liverpool may be reigning Premier League champions, but their defence of the title fizzled out before the turn of the year. Arne Slot's side have also struggled in the race for the top four and were knocked out of the Carabao Cup. However, they have reached the quarter-finals of the Champions League and the FA Cup. While many of the Red Stars have been below par this season, Mohamed Salah, as the club's talisman, has found himself on the receiving end of criticism, perhaps more than most. However, the 33-year-old looked to have rolled back the years with a stunning strike in the Champions League against Galatasaray midweek. Yet his efforts have not changed the mind of a Liverpool icon who has torn into the star. Elsewhere, another Anfield legend has expressed his surprise at a development surrounding Trent Alexander-Arnold. Mo Salah blamed Reds icon Graham Souness believes Salah should end his Anfield career this summer after blaming the Egyptian for the Reds' underwhelming season. Salah has had a tricky season in front of goal, having scored just 5 times in the Premier League and had a falling out with Slot at the end of last year, which has since been resolved. Explaining his stance to the Daily Mail, Souness said, "What happens, in my opinion and in my experience, is your career happens one of two ways. When you get to that sort of 33, 34 age area, it's either falling off a cliff or it's a slow decline. I think Salah is the former. I went to see the very first game of the season, the Community Shield against Crystal Palace, and I was sitting next to my young son. I said, I don't know what's wrong with him. And then I thought maybe he needs half a dozen games to get up to speed. But he's never improved. His numbers tell you that. His numbers are way down. And he is the single biggest reason why Liverpool are having an indifferent season. Because within that group of players, there'll be some that are feeling the pain, some are feeling the negativity that's around the place, and they're not responding very well to it. And when you're in that position, you need big players to stand up and be counted. And I think that's been a bit of a shock to Liverpool supporters, the manager and coaching staff, that those guys have not done that. Quizzed if the iconic winger should leave this summer, the 3-time European Cup winner replied yes. His best is behind him now, there's no doubt about that. The first person to know that is yourself, and it happens to everyone. I don't see the same sparkle. I think if you're looking for the single biggest reason for Liverpool's shaky form, it's because he's not been getting the numbers. He's been for 6-7 years the Liverpool go-to man. He has completely changed games when it wasn't going their way, and he has scored a ridiculous number of goals every season. He's a Liverpool great, but his best season is behind him. Steven Gerrard's surprise former Reds hero. Gerrard has claimed that Trent Alexander-Arnold's England snub for this month's international break comes as a surprise. The Real Madrid ace was left out of Thomas Tuchel's 35-man group for the friendlies against Uruguay and Japan. Alexander-Arnold hasn't played for his country since the 1-0 win over Andorra in June. Tino Livramento and Jed Spence were named as England's right-backs with Reece James out injured. Gerrard was asked about the right-back's exclusion on Saturday and if Tuchel's decision had surprised him. He said very much so. Listen, we've got some good options at right back. Reece James is world class. I really like Livramento. I know he's had a couple of injuries, but he can play both sides. I understand the selection, but I just think, is Trent among the best 35 players in this country? Of course he is. There's going to be certain games where England have to open the door. They might be against a low block where it's really frustrating. And Trent is one of these players who can come off the bench and just completely change the game with one pass. He's that level of a player. So I am surprised and I'm disappointed for him, but there's a lot of other situations that you've got to take into consideration. How much has he played? Is he physically at his best? Is there stuff going on off the pitch? Is it where he doesn't want a group of players where those who aren't going to be in the 11, that might be different people around the place? There's A lot that gets taken into consideration before you select a squad across a 6-week period rather than for a one-off game.